Okay, so we're back with lesson 3 for the Palmer method of business writing in an effort to improve my handwriting. Still haven't got to the drill part yet, which is it's becoming a little tedious and a tad boring, but I've skipped ahead, so I'm actually doing some of those things while I'm still incorporating the lessons from the techniques from lessons 3. So the first part of lesson 3 is about reviewing lessons 1 and 2. So if you're interested in that, you can always just go back and check those videos. I'm not going to go through that again. And then the other component of lesson 3 is looking at holding the pen and positioning the paper in relation to the body. So I think the best place to start first is with the paper, and then we can look at holding the pen, which incidentally they call a pen holder. Yeah, I don't get it. So without further ado, we'll move on to positioning the paper. Alright, so I've got crazy handy Dadroid cam strapped to my head. Now there is some guideline around positioning the paper, which I don't know if you can see clearly here. So this picture here is for if you're sitting at the table at an angle, and this one's if you're sitting square on. So these two dark lines you can see here, illustration of the arm position. That obviously paper there. There's a dotted line which runs pretty much vertically through the paper. So that's from the point at which the pen's making contact with the paper and directly straight towards my body. So that's that will form the angle of the writing. C is the left hand position, and A over here is the elbow. So remembering to keep the 90-degree bend in the right elbow. Having said that, there's not really any reference points or indications to help maintain the paper at a constant position. So what I've decided is that I'm going to keep the paper pretty much parallel to my forearm here. So that's the idea. And then in terms of so this is right arm, obviously. Left arm holding the paper here. And then pen, where the pen is contacting the paper, when I form my letters, my strokes, I'm going to pull straight down towards my body. So for example, letter I, or maybe you can't see that, the letter I, A, B. So when I'm forming all these strokes, I'm pulling the pen straight towards my body. So that's how I'm forming the angle. So that's the idea, and that's what I've decided I'm going to do, and I think it's going to help me be consistent from page to page with the angle or slope of my writing. So once again, paper parallel with forearm. Awesome. Alright, let's move on to the next part. So the next part is actually holding the pen, or pen holder. Yeah, still not getting it. Anyway, now this is where my opinion differs vastly from what's been written in the book. Essentially what they're saying in the book is or in the manual, is to almost hold the pen like you're holding a dart, like you're about to throw a dart. And that's actually the way your hand should be positioned when on the table, which means that your hand's kind of in this position. So the forearm is making contact with the table, and then it's only these two fingers here which are supposed to make contact with the paper. And I just really struggle to control the pen holding it like this. Just yeah, it's bizarre. Oops. Evidently, I also struggle to write the alphabet. So, you know, that's what they're saying. And then see where my pen is resting against the knuckle here. So for me, I tend to hold it, yeah, I'd say above that knuckle, but it can be below. So around that first knuckle of the index finger there is where you want the pen resting. But that bit's not critical, because that sort of thing depends on the size of your hand, perhaps the size of the pen, how long your fingers are, all that sort of thing will impact that. And also where you're holding the pen. So I tend to hold my pen here. So that's the way that the manual says to hold the pen, you know, like a dart, with almost with the palm facing down, and only these two fingers touching the actual paper, so your wrist isn't touching the paper, and certainly not your side of hand. Having said all of that, that's exactly how I hold the pen. So I hold it like this. As you can see, this whole part of my arm is contacting the paper. I mean, the actual, you know, where it rests here and where I'm holding it here is all pretty much the same. So that's the way I'm doing it, and that's the way I've been taught. And you know, maybe it has contributed to some dodgy handwriting, but afraid that's the way it is. So we're going to stick with it. But I just feel it's so much more. It feels so much more fluid and free to operate this way. But as I've also mentioned, you know, the issues of towards the middle of the paper here or end here does pose a bit of an issue, and I can see where this style would be an advantage in those areas, because you're not actually contacting the paper there, and here as well. You know, it'll be easier to maintain a constant position. So that's holding the pen. So here's a different angle of me holding the pen. As you can see, it's a bit of a close-up here, so you can see it resting on the top knuckle, and where I hold it here, and how it's making contact with the table. So as I pull this down, as you see me pull this down, that's pointing directly to my body, to the center of my chest. And that's all I really want to show you with this shot. That's basically it for lesson 3. I've probably waffled on long enough for such a simple topic. One other thing I will point out is that the idea is to write probably for a couple of inches and then move the paper so that your hand, the writing hand, stays in the same position, and it's just the paper moving along just like the old school typewriters. I'm sure many of you will know what I'm talking about when I say typewriters. The younger guys probably have no idea what I'm talking about when I say a typewriter. But the idea is the paper's moving along every couple of inches, so you're not really stretching out your hand and therefore changing the slope of your writing. So this is Keith, the Handy Dad Droid, signing off.